Hey, Rap Critic here, and over the weekend, Nicki Minaj released her response to Remy Ma's ShETHER. And a lot of people are, speculating which one was better, but I wanted to do a lyric for lyric breakdown and show you how I sort of break down beefs and show you how I see how someone won, whether or not it was good. Not by Instagram posts or little sneak disses in verses, but like when you're directly dissing someone, did you do better than them? And I wanted to do it in a quantifiable way so you could see line for line as I should be showing you here, so you can see line for line, what hit and what didn't. Now, Remy Ma did her, ShETHER diss, and it was like 80 bars or something like that. Just going at her, no chorus, no break or anything like that. And a lot of people would say like, oh, well, that one's definitely better because it had more bars. But that's not necessarily true, at least with how I'm rating it. I rate it by percentage of how many lines were good versus how many lines were bad. And, when you have more bars, that's more room for you to fuck up. And there are a lot of points here where she kind of messes up. And then you have Nicki Minaj's response, which, while shorter and was obviously sort of packaged to be like a hit song to try to do what Drake was doing with the back-to-back, like, oh, I'm dissing you and I'm going to make it a big hit on the radio. She kind of does one verse and then has Drake and Lil Wayne do a verse, which I felt was kind of a mistake because when Drake did the back-to-back, it was just him. So I feel like if you're going to do a response, it needs to be just you standing on your own 2 feet, showing how solid you are and not relying on anyone. Now, people might be saying it was weaker because it's just one verse, but that means that every line, if it's good, hits even stronger and harder and packs a bigger punch in a shorter amount of time, which that could be given credit in saying that she was able to do in one short verse, what, Remy Ma was able to do in a whole song. So let's see line for line which one is better. Now, Remy Ma honestly starts the strongest. She has the intro where she's talking about the chicken wing chain and, the chorus that reappropriates the ether chorus to being about fuck with you so like ShETHER will teach you the queen, I'll show you, So like that's already a nice little start, the twisting of one thing to turn it into something else. But she kind of starts falling down as soon as the verse starts with the dumb ass lines. It's just a waste of time. Like, I get what you're doing, but unless you have a better wordplay than just like, I'm talking about your dumb ass. No, you literally got a dumb ass. It's just not as good as she thinks it sounds. But after that, we get a line about, how you gonna steal my '09 jail tweet and run, saying, like, you bit off something that I did, which is always a good starter. Like, you're below me because I inspire you, and you have to take inspiration from me in order to make, good music. So, and then, of course, dissing her by saying, you're talking about bringing knives to a fight with guns when the only shot you ever took was in your buns. So already we're taking the shots about, her having surgery and things like that with the butt shot thing. Then she kind of loses points for going into the story about seeing Meek Mill at the All-Star and rhyming ass dropped with ass dropped. Once again, the rhyming words with themselves is just kind of a bad tactic unless you're literally like really doing something with it. And then she goes into the whole thing about like, oh, why didn't she throw some hot chicks your way? It's just like, you're not getting at her by saying, what? Why didn't she let you have sex with other people? It's just like, that's not really much of a, oh, you got her now. But then there's calling out the hypocrisy. That's the main thing. Pointing out someone's hypocrisies is a good way to take someone down. So it says like, and you even hear at the beginning the voice of Nicki Minaj saying "Free Remy," so it's like, okay, it's already set up that Nicki Minaj sounds like a stan, right? Someone who's a fan of her, and so it's like, all right, I'm already above you. And then it's like, you said that, free me, but now that I'm free, I don't see you flocking to help me out. You know what I mean? So later on, she kind of talks about how points out her hypocrisies once again, like, you left him and took a pic with the dude that he had beef with, pointing out the whole Meek being with Nicki Minaj while he was beefing with Drake, and then as soon as she left him, now all of a sudden she's cool with him again. It's kind of like, whoa, where do your loyalties lie, And then we kind of get to the, which could be sort of like saying like, oh, you had to fuck your way to the top, and that's sort of how she's coming at her. And, you know, you could say, like, oh, well, that's not really, like, a good diss, but it all depends on how you frame it. And because he says, like, you've been through Mad Cruise, you disloyal Uchi, now all of a sudden you back with Drake and Tucci. Like, there was a long period where they weren't doing songs together, and people were like, well, what's the deal? And, you know, it just seemed like she was estranged from the, you know, Young Money crew. And then it's like, okay, now that she got away from Meek Mill, all of a sudden she's cool with YM again. And sort of that whole, like, back and forth thing. He's basically just calling her out, like, so where do your loyalties lie? And then there's that line about, like, after he said you sucked his dick, you're back with Gucci. The whole thing where, like, Gucci Man was on some sort of, like, Twitter meltdown, I guess, where he was like, oh, I'm revealing that this Nicki Minaj was a hoe and da-da-da. And then it's like, after he dissed you, like, and basically disrespected you and, like, slut-shamed you and shit, now you're cool with him again? Like, well, what's going on here? You know, so it's just all these things thrown at her to sort of make her look less reputable as, you know, an artist and as someone with integrity. And then the only time you touch the trigger is when you fuck Trey Songz. Like I said, a lot of this is like the slut shaming thing, but it's just like it's sort of the punches that take away her credibility, like. And it's not just like, oh, you fucked all these people. It's just sort of saying, like, you needed to fuck these people in order to get ahead. And that's what she's kind of, like, disrespecting. I remember someone had said to me, like, well, you know, you're just saying, like, oh, she fucked these guys. Like, well, if it was the reverse, no one would be saying that, because it would be like, oh, well, if Jay-Z was fucking all these hot, famous chicks, it's like, but the difference is, like, it would have to be framed as in, like, oh, he needed to fuck Beyonce in order to get ahead. Oh, he needed to, you know, fuck Foxy Brown or whatever to get ahead. No, the idea here specifically is that she needed to do this in order to get ahead. And sure, that's most likely indicative of the, you know, sexist system that's in place in the music industry in general. But, you know, it's just showing that, like, well, there's no accusations of Remy Ma having to do this. So it's like, boom, that's what I've got against you, you know. And then, of course, there's the you cheated on your man with Ebro. I might link the footage of you sniffing them ski slopes. It's like, whoa, okay, so you've got incriminating evidence. Like, all throughout the song, there's little hints that, like, I have something that I could release. And that, once again, is chipping away at the integrity of her. And I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm saying this is what you do when you're trying to make a song that's trying to tear somebody down. You know what I mean? And there was a line about, like, I'm supposed to be scared because you brought your Barbie chain back. That's never been, like, a thing. Like, oh, watch out, I might wear my Barbie chain again. Barbie's not really, like, a threatening thing in and of itself, so it was just like, what? And then tried to front in February, I'll catch you in that May back. That was just bad. Then you show you how to use your name. You'd be using your name whack. Now, here she goes with the sort of wordplay about, you know, Nicki and mixing it with, like, celebrities as wordplay and stuff. Not a lot of them really hit when I really looked back at it. Of course, there was I responded less than 48 hours, Nick Nolte. That's kind of dope, because it's like, when I heard about this, I responded quick, and it's sort of like saying, well, where's your diss at, you know? And, like, direct, and not just, like, subliminals. Then, of course, you have the Nicolas Cage line, the face-off. We've heard that a lot before. But when the line, when she says, only the kids believe in you, you Saint Nick, that's a good one. You can't front on that one. But then she kind of falls back down again with a hit Nick with the cannon. And then, of course, you're saying, like, oh, you're fronting on Miley Cyrus, like, this chick who's, like, never been, like, hardcore like that. And you know she doesn't have street cred, and you're willing to say shit to her. And you're willing to say shit to Mariah Carey. But, like, you know, say my name and diss me directly. You know what I mean? It's like, you're dissing all these pop stars, but you can't come at me directly, you know? The part where it gets detracted, the just dissing her for having sex is with lines like, you name yourself Nikki Lewinsky, the mind of her. First of all, that is kind of a stupid nickname, but I feel like it could have been used better. Like, because he's just like, you was sucking his dick, and now he's tired of your nookie. It's just like, so? Like, that's not really, like, a strong line. You know, it's like, I thought maybe she was gonna like tie in like a Bill Clinton sort of reference and try to make it like that, but like it's just like, what is it? It doesn't really work. I mean, maybe someone can explain to me why that works better, but for me, it just feels like, oh, she's tired of your pussy. Like, that's not really like a hit, you know? Let me see. And then, of course, you fucked the whole empire who you're trying to be Cookie. That was dope. And then the thing about the 360 deal, that fucking buried her. That was a dope fucking line. Just the whole thing where she's going at her about, endorsements, tour, and merchandise. They figure, fuck it, you make like 35 cents off each ducat. Like, that fucking went in. Then afterwards saying, like, you calling yourself a boss, you're not like him. Like, she's going in. Then you have this line about, like, I kill rappers, you as good as dead, bitch. Talking shit about me to a deaf bitch. It wasn't really at her, that was more aimed at Foxy Brown. And then the untreated gonorrhea thing, which is just like, well, now you're just going off in this completely different thing. Then she brings it back to you're saying I'm the bad girl, and she's the one out here misleading the black girls. All these fake asses influenced by that girl dying from botched surgeries, which is actually a thing that's been happening. People have been doing ass shot injections, and people could say that Nicki Minaj is sort of like the one riding the wave on top of the ass injection thing, despite it being a really dangerous sort of thing, and despite people really, dying from it. So it's sort of like she's putting the blame on her and being like, all these people trying to be like you because they know that you got injections and they're suffering the consequences for it. Just like exposing how she's a bad influence, right? And then she goes into guess who supports a child molester? Nicki Minaj. And she goes into the thing about her brother. And I remember when that news first broke, I was like, someone's going to use that against her eventually. And it's going to suck so bad. Because how the fuck are you going to come back from that? And, yeah, this definitely happened. So, and then there's the line about, I guess that's why they call you Barbie. You was next to Ken. And I was like, wait, is her brother's name Ken? That doesn't really make sense. Like, I get it, next of kin, but that's not really, like, related to why he's a pedophile. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Why didn't you help your bro hide his cum from forensics? Why would you do that? That's disgusting. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you're calling her out for supporting a pedophile who is her brother, and you're saying, why didn't she help him hide the sperm? Like, what the fuck? Like, now we're talking about her being loyal to her pedophile brother now? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, shouldn't it have been like, shouldn't you be distancing yourself from him instead of talking about how you should be helping him? I don't know. It just kind of got lost in it. And then, you're probably somewhere overseas, foreign, sick, by far, rim sick. That was lame. But then there's the twisting the knife of I see men in your pants. We call that Jelani, which is her brother. He's like, get it? Semen in your pants. And a bit of a devastating line because there was apparently semen found on this 12 or 15-year-old girl's pants that was her brother. So it's just like, holy shit, that was just fucking cold-blooded. And then she sort of twists the lines from the last really big, diss song, Drake's Back to Back, with saying, yeah, I got trigger fingers, you got bitter fingers. Yeah, you must think you Drake in them Twitter fingers. And sort of saying like, oh, you think you're going to come back at me, but nah, I'm already twisting what you're going to do, and I'm going to hit you first. And then VH1 watch this, you just got bodied by a love and hip-hop bitch. That's a great way to end it. It's just like, oh, I was supposed to be the one to not take seriously because I was on a reality show. Yeah, but then I fucking demolished you with this diss. So, overall, it's mostly good lines. 15 more good lines than there were bad lines. I had a +1 for like a really good chorus, but that's only if there's like a tiebreaker. 37 good lines, and overall it's 61% of lines that connected. So now let's get to Nicki Minaj's verse. I don't need no frauds. I don't need no drama when you call. It's just like, what are you talking about? Like, it sounds like you're talking about like someone being a fake friend, and it's like, I don't think that was the idea. I don't think Remy was supposed to be your friend in this situation, so I don't really know what she's talking about. And it's like, I took the price and I lift that bitch up, took the ice, let me lift my wrist up. Like, what are you referring to? You're just talking about, oh, I'm rich. Like, that doesn't really hit hard, If the chorus is more focused about, like, I'm about to take out these motherfuckers who aren't worth my time. Like, all right, boom, that could have worked. So then we get into our verses. The first 4 lines, complete waste once again. Throw your wrists up, all my bitches up, these niggas is pussier than what, all them dicks is up. She's not talking about anything. But then she comes in with, you can't be Pablo if your work ain't selling. What the fuck is this bitch in Helen? It's like, that's a pretty good fucking line. Like, you can't be, either Pablo Escobar or, The Life of Pablo, Kanye West, the whole thing. Basically dissing Remy Ma by saying, oh, your albums didn't sell. You're not as credible an artist because you're not, pushing these units like I am. So I was like, all right, that's a good sort of takedown line. You know what I mean? Sure, people could say like, oh, it's not about, sales, it's about skill. But if you use that skill to genuinely say something that is like, that really pulls for you, that's clever, I give you a point for that. Now, if you just said, I sold more records than you, it's like, well, that's just lame. But if you're saying, like, you can't be on this level of, being that, dope drug dealer or innovative artist or whatever if no one is paying attention. So it's like, all right, that's a good point. Now, then she has the line where she says, I would have helped you out that pit, you felon. I am the generous queen. Ask Miss Ellen. Just the fact that, like, the way it's set up, like, I am the generous queen, like, it's said so big, and it's just like, where are you going with this? And then, oh, it's just supposed to be a play on Ellen DeGeneres? You showed her? No, that's lame, You tried to drop another one, you was itching to scrap. You exposed your ghostwriter, now you wish it was scrapped. And there's a lot of people saying that Papoose wrote some of the lines of Remy Ma's initial diss. And, there's credibility, you could say, because Papoose kind of has the thing where he's like, the play on words for someone's name. When I shoot at Nick at night, you won't understand it. Da, da, da. So people are kind of claiming that that's really him. And so like, oh, you're talking about someone being a ghostwriter and me having ghostwriters, but people suspect that you have them too. So, that's kind of coming back at her. And then he says, then she says this line about, heard your pussy on Yuck, I guess you needed a pap. Which is just, like, it almost connects, but it doesn't work. Like, it's like, yeah. It's like, I get it, Papoose, but how is there, I don't understand how her pussy's supposed to get better with, like, it just doesn't connect. It doesn't connect in the way that I think she wanted it to. But then she goes, what type of bum bitch shoots a friend over a rack? Which is going into why Remy Ma was in prison in the first place over gun charges and, shooting someone over, not that much money. But, yeah, that's pretty damning. It's just like, I'm out here doing good, and man, you went to jail for years over some bullshit. Like, that's one that really starts to dig in. And then what type of mother leaves her son over a stack? It's just like, the sort of like, oh man, you fucking were willing to throw away years of your son's life over some trifling, like, amount of money. Like, wow. That's attacking at the credibility. That's digging in. And then this little boogie down basic bitch thinking she back. Like, oh yeah, you think you're just gonna come back? You think you're just gonna take my spot? Yeah, it's just not happening. Then she goes, the back to back. Oh, you mean back to whack? But then she says the line, they say numbers don't matter, but when they discuss in the Kings, they turn around and say LeBron ain't got 6 rings. Which is sort of the reference to Michael Jordan and LeBron James and talk about how, like, well, he hasn't gotten the same status as him yet. And so you could be comparing that. And, of course, people were sort of combating that, saying, like, well, you can be a good rapper and not sell millions of albums. The amount of albums you sell has nothing to do with how good you are as a rapper, at least not directly. And so people are saying, like, well, if someone's a really good basketball player, yeah, Michael Jordan earns those rings. It's not like he was able to fill this amount of basketball seats, and that's how he won those rings. No, he won it because of his skill. So, people could make that argument, but I'm giving her the point because she's saying, like, she's making a case, at least, for why, like, okay, but when we talk about someone being able to accrue this much, this many sort of, not necessarily accolades, but, like, this much prestige, that should matter. And it plays more like a defensive line than an offensive line. But, I give her a point for it for saying, like, nah, I should be able to brag on these fucking records I sold because not many people are doing it and I was able to, so fuck y'all. And then she says, I never signed a 360, which she did, so she's just lying. Like, that's an obvious thing that we can find out, Like, the whole thing about Remy Ma and having recorded footage of Nicki Minaj doing this and that and the third, like, we don't know that. That could be possible, like, but this 360 deal, like, we know that's true. We can find that out, And, but then she goes, like, that's why Jay didn't clear his verse for your album. And that kind of harkens back to, like, people who just say things that, like, aren't relevant, like she's saying, like, oh, you wild dumb. That's why Jay ain't clear his verse for your album. Like, oh, that's why you're ugly. Like, it just doesn't work as a diss because it feels too defensive rather than offensive. Once again, like you're dumb because the reason why I know you're dumb is because Jay didn't clear his verse for your album. How does that relate? Like, there could have been a myriad of things that could be the problem with why this verse thing didn't happen. There's no direct reason why someone being dumb would mean that someone didn't clear their verse for your album. Like, oh, Jay-Z thought you were good, that's why he recorded the verse, but then he heard that you were dumb and he didn't want to. Like, no, it just doesn't really work. And then there's the line where she says, you a fraud committing perjury. I got before and after pictures of your surgery. And of course, that could be, her dissing her saying, like, well, you've gotten some work done too. But at the same time, like, I don't know, as far as I've been hearing and as far as, like, the mainstream context is concerned, there's a lot more issues with people getting butt implants and that killing them than getting, boob jobs and that killing them. So it's like, well, and also to be like, I got before and after pictures of your surgery, it's like, well, you both had at least, like, boob implants, so, like, that doesn't really work. It's like, I heard that you got boob implants. Like, yeah, so did you, bro. Like, what? How does that, how are you coming at me? But, so on that, they're kind of evenly matched. But when you talk about the sort of, like, oh, you're having butt injections, and you're supposed to be known for your butt, that's kind of funny, because, like, people don't really, like, laud her for her boobs, at least not as much. They're more about her butt, and so it's just like, oh, you have this big butt, oh, but it's fake. That's how Remy Ma's line hits her harder than Nicki Minaj's line about her boobs being fake, because, well, first of all, she's not really, like, known for her breasts like that. Like, Remy Ma, it's not like, oh, Remy Ma and those big boobs of hers, like, no one really... That's the problem with hitting at someone who's not, like, as commercially viable. You're not really going to be able to hit them with as hard of a thing on public image, So that doesn't really hit as hard. And then it's like, Ra took you to her doc, but you don't look like Ra, which once again, like, that doesn't really... And then left the operating table, you still look like Nah. And I guess you could give her a point for being the callback to the subliminal diss she did before, but I thought that diss was also kind of bad. And she's done that a couple of times where she goes, I look like yes, and you look like no. It's too simple to be a credible line. Like, it's just like, really? I look like yes, and you look like no? Like, it's just lame. And like I said, the fact that she's used it before with that, I look like yeah, and you look like I'm a yes, and you bitches is a bunch of no's. It's just kind of a lame phrase. So overall, there's the minus point for vague, unrelated chorus, but I didn't take that away unless, once again, there is like a tiebreaker that needs to be done. There's more bad lines than good lines, unfortunately. Only about, as you'll see here, 33% of her lines really hit. So yeah, I'm going to call this one, Remy Ma definitely won this one by about 28%. She just had more hits. She just had more things that stuck, at least in my eyes. And then, of course, there's this that Remy Ma released a couple of days after this one. But until Nicki Minaj does a response to that one, I think, I'm going to call it for now. This is the end of round one. I personally don't care about things that people put on their Instagram, any petty shit like that. Give me the bars, and we can settle this quantifiably, see who really hit the hardest. So round one goes to Remy Ma, but who knows what'll happen. A lot of people are actually saying that Remy Ma's second song wasn't as good as the first one. So maybe Nicki Minaj will come back strong, and we'll have another bout. But until next time, this is Rap Critic saying, if you're gonna diss somebody, take the time to do it right.